Hello there everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to make this 5-strand braid using wire work and then with beads incorporated into it. So this is what mine looks like here. So you get this really nice effect of the braid and then using wire. So it's nice and sturdy as well, the bracelet itself. And then you can obviously use whatever beads you want to. So it's a pretty simple and easy one to do and also quite quick. So if you want to learn how to do it, then stay tuned. So these are the materials that we're going to be needing. First of all, we need a wire here, and this is a regular round copper wire. This is a 1mm gauge, so that's the one I'm using for this case here. And then the beads that I'm using are some 6mm rounds. These are just some purple agate ones, gemstones. You can use whatever you want to. You can also use and try different kinds, shapes and sizes of beads and get different results really. All you got to make sure of, regardless what beads you're using, is that your wire will go through the hole in them. So say if you have some beads that are a little bit smaller hole, so a 1mm won't go through, you could always go down to a 0.8mm as well in the wire. And then I also have my findings here to finish off the bracelet with. So I have my ribbon ends, these are 13mm ones, and then I have my extender chain, jump rings and a lobster claw clasp. So let's get it all together and let's get started. And then we'll need some lengths of wire here, and what I have is 5 lengths of about 40 centimeters each, and we're going to use these to make the whole piece. So then what I've done is I've taken my lengths of wire here and attached it into a spring clamp, so just like this, and I've taken about 10 centimeters of the ends and put them through there just so I have a bit of tails to be able to work with if I need to add anything to that end when I'm done. And then I've also just put a bit of space in between them here in the clamp. Now what you also just want to make sure to do is straighten out your wires before you start work, just so you don't have any obvious kinks or bends, because that's going to affect the look but it can also help weaken the wire. So what I'm going to do is get straight into it, and I'm also just going to add beads straight away because that's going to help with the spacing before we start bringing over any wires. So what I'm going to do is add my beads. I'm going to take kind of 2 at a time here. I'm not going to add a bead onto each one. I'm going to take not the one out to the side, the second one in, skip another one, and then again the next one put a bead. So I'm just going to add my beads onto here. So get right to the end and then let the bead drop all the way down. So that's going to sit in between there, as you can see. And then the next one is going to, like I said, skip, so basically skip the middle wire and then the wire after that, and let that drop all the way down as well. So this is where the beads are going to be placed, just like that. And then what I'm going to do is start the actual braid itself. So I'm just going to start from my left side. It doesn't really matter what side you start from and what direction you work in. It's going to give the same result anyway. It's just whatever you're most comfortable with. So, like I said, I'm going to start with this furthest left or bottom, depending how you look at it. And then I'm going to go over the next wire. I'm going to bring it under the one after that, over the next one again, and then under the last one. So all we've done is taken that one wire from one side, go over, under, over and under. And that's kind of what creates the braid. I'm going to then bring it all the way over to the other side, just like that. And you can see that then pushes up the beads nicely and is going to help cage in the beads and make them sit in place. And then I want to just kind of flatten this out a little bit. And there we go. And then we need to add on the next few beads. So you can now see we kind of have only 4 wires now. The 5th one is up to the side. But what we need to do is add beads, not to the same ones as we added them to before, but kind of imagine that you still have 5. Because if you imagine you bring this one down the side, the one from the left in this case has just moved over towards the right. So the next wire that I'm going to take, the next time we're going to bring it over, is again the furthest one to the left, which is then one that has a bead. So I'm not going to add a bead to that. I'm going to do the next one in and then skip the middle one again and then do the next one here. So those are the ones I'm going to add a bead to now. So just get all the way to the end, add your bead, let it drop all the way down, and then take the next one that you're going to add it to. And again, add it and let it drip all the way down. And then there you can see how they sit, that they kind of sit on the wires next to the wires that we put beads onto before. And then what I'm going to do is just make sure to kind of push them up so they're sitting exactly where we want them to. Keep them there. And then this wire that's out to the side, I'm going to bring this down. So basically around that outer bead. So I'm using the bead as a guide to bring this down again. So now we have 5 again. Now what I'm going to do is we need to take the one furthest to the left. If you're looking at it here, or just the same side that you're starting from, whatever side you start from, go back to that. We then need to do the same thing, bring this over to the other side. So before, we need to do the exact same thing that we did before. So I'm going to go over the next one, then go under, and then go over, and then go under the last one. So as you can see, that's the exact same thing as the first one. Bring that then tighter, so pull it upwards. So that's going to then form nicely around underneath the beads there basically, and kind of cage them in. And then when you've done that, I want to just flatten it a little bit again. So I just push the wires that are coming straight down a bit together to flatten it out a bit. So there we go. And then all you want to basically keep doing now is repeating this. So that means, just going to show you again, I'm going to add a wire to the wires that are next to the wires that I previously added the beads to. So I'm going to take kind of the outer one here of the 4 that are currently pointing downwards, because we've not brought that 5th one down yet to join them. And then skip one, and then take that next one as well. So the second one in from the side. And just like that, you can see, push them all the way up to make sure everything is sitting properly in the previous ones. And then before I bring anything over, I need to bring this one that points straight out to the side down to join the others. So bring it around the bead, and then that comes straight down just like the others. So again, using that bead as a guide, so we know where that wire is going to go. Instead of, if you do it by hand, you could do, but then you might risk it getting too tight. It's just easier doing it when the bead is on there. Go back to the beginning side, take the outer wire over the next one, under the one after that, and over, and then under. Just like that. Bring it through, and then push it up. And then I also like to, as I go and I'm working with my wire, as I'm moving it, I always like to then straighten it out and kind of warming it up as well, just so whatever bends it's gotten into it, because this will get some bends and curves while you're working with it, and I then like to straighten that out once I've done that kind of job with it, trying to avoid any obvious bends or kinks. So there we go, that's another one. Again, squeeze these tight and flatten it out. And you can see it's forming there really nicely. So it's a really nice and simple technique, and you can use a vast array of whatever beads that you want to. So keep doing this until you've reached almost the length that you need. So now that I've reached the end here, because I've then got the length that I want the main pattern bracelet to be, then what we need to do is finish off the end. I've taken it off the spring clamp, and then at the beginning where we had the first 2 beads, you just want to bring over the wire to kind of cage them in as well so they don't fall off. So just bring it following the path of the other wires, the pattern there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the ribbon end here to finish it off nicely. And I just want to, the wire here that's sticking straight out to the side, I want to kind of just bring that down, so I put my fingers on where it is and then I bend it downwards. Kind of like this. And then I kind of bring it over to the opposite side just so it fastens a bit better. So there we go. Now I want to cut off the excess of my wires here, and what I'm going to do is just get a pair of flush cutters, and if you then take the ribbon end, and if you imagine it's going to sit around there, we obviously want the end of the wire that's going to be left to be inside of there, so it's got to fit to there, not be too long, but I want to make it just a bit longer because I'm going to use that extra little length to make it a bit more secure. So I'm going to cut it off about there, and also make sure I'm cutting it at a straight line, because what you actually see is where the wire is crossing over there, it goes a bit of an angle, so it's not straight over between the beads. But I want to make sure I cut this straight. So all the way across. About here, and also cut this down. So there we go. Now we have a better length to work with. I'm then going to take my flat nose pliers here, and what I want to do is use that little extra length that I left, because if I just put this on now, you can see that they're way too long and there's too much wire there to fit inside the ribbon end. But what I then want to do is take the very end of the wires, grab onto that with my chain nose or flat nose pliers, and then bend them. Now the outer ones I always want to bend inwards towards the middle, because otherwise they'll be sticking out the side of the ribbon end. I want to avoid that. So just grab them and put a bend in them. And the reason that I do this is I'm going to add glue to the ribbon end, so that's going to make it nice and more secure. But I also like doing this because if you just put the wires in like this, and even with the glue, it's much easier just to pull the wires out. Either quickly or over time it's going to eventually pull out. So doing this, the wire goes inside but then curves around, so you can't just pull them out because they're straight. So it makes it much more secure and sturdy, kind of long term as well. So just bend them, and again make sure you have that kind of more straight edge when you're bending these. And then I'm just going to make sure they're as flat as possible. So flatten them, and if you need to adjust anything, do it now. I'm just going to bring this a bit more. And then make sure that they're as flat as they can be. So there, and then we can just test it, put the ribbon end on and see how it's going to sit. So if you think it's kind of straight enough, and also if you think there's not too much sticking out from the ribbon end there of the actual wire. So I'm pretty pleased with that. So then I'm going to get out my glue, and this is the E6000 I'm going to be using. And then I have my ribbon end ready here. So then I'm going to just take a toothpick just to help apply it with, put a bit on it, and then I'm going to get the glue inside the ribbon end here. And you want to make sure to get it up and down the sides of the ribbon end inside of it. And don't add too much glue, there's no need for that because it's just going to come spilling out anyway. We just want to have enough that's going to be able to grip on to the wire here, and whatever I have left I like to just put on the end of my piece. Especially here with the wire, really get it in between the wires, because then it's really going to grab on to each other, the two pieces, and make it much more secure, because it nestles in between the wires here as well. So like that. And then I'm going to take the ribbon end, put it on there, place it, just double check everything, make sure you're happy with how it sits. Then I'm going to take my flat nose pliers, and then I need to start squishing this down. So I like to go into one place and just gently squish it a bit at a time, going back and forth until I feel like I'm almost there. And then I take my fingers off, check it, see if it's still centered and it looks nice. And if it is, I'm going to go in and do a final squeeze all the way across. Like that. And I always like to go in from the sides as well. And then if you have any glue spilling out, I have a bit here at the end, just pick it away, wipe it away. You can do that while it's still a bit wet here. It comes off easily. So there we go. So now obviously you want to let the glue dry, so it's going to be really nice and secure, and then you use the loops here on the ribbon ends to then attach whatever findings you want to use. So obviously your clasp. And then once you've done that, all that's left to do is then shape the bracelet. So now I have both ends finished off here and attached my clasp as well. So all it's left to do, like I said, is shape it. Now what you could do is, if you have something that's the size and the shape that you want your bracelet to be, you could just mold it around that. Otherwise you can just use your hands and fingers. So I like to go in one place and then gently start putting a curve into it. So I don't go into one place and just do a big bend, because that'll misshape it. So just gradually go from side to side, and then you'll gradually get a more and more curved bracelet, and you just keep doing this basically until you've reached the shape that you want. Now personally, I prefer to make my bracelets more oval rather than round. I find, because if you look, your wrists aren't really round, they're more oval shape, and I find they tend to sit better on the wrist, so they don't kind of swirl around so much around the wrist, and also they tend to be more comfortable, I think. But that's obviously completely up to you. So you just keep shaping it here until you've got your shape in place and your ends are meeting. So once you then shaped it here and you're happy with it, then this is what it looks like. So you get this really nice effect of the braid, but then with the beads within it, and there's nice patterning to it. And like I said, playing around with different types, sizes and shapes of beads would also be kind of interesting to see what you can get from that. So this is quite a simple and easy bracelet wire work tutorial. So I really hope you enjoyed this, and thank you very much for watching. Hello there everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to make this wire woven bracelet where I've added in some beads along the way as well. And this is the final piece that I've made. So it looks like this. So I'm doing a regular wire weave here. This is the Aztec wire weave. And then what I'm doing though along the way is I'm adding in little seed beads to add this really big impact of some colour as well. It gives a really totally completely different effect, I think, adding in those beads. You can really play around with both the colour